They say a whisper can calm a storm. But mine shattered something. Not loud. Not angry. Just, "Take it easy, son." I still hear it. Late at night. When the dishes are done and the house goes quiet. It loops in my head like a song I didn't mean to remember. That whisper didn't come from calm. It came from exhaustion. From loneliness that had sat with me for too long. From silence in a marriage where we stopped asking each other how we were. He was the only one who looked at me. Not through me. At me. And when he did, I felt seen. More than I had in years. I didn't plan it. Didn't even understand it. But I remember the way my voice cracked when I said it. "Take it easy, son." Like I was asking him to slow down something I wasn't ready to face. It wasn't just a whisper. It was a moment. The moment before everything shifted. I wish I could tell you it ended there. But it didn't. Because once you feel alive again, it's hard to go back to pretending. This is the part no one talks about. The quiet lead up. The unspoken ache. The soft beginnings of something forbidden. And it all started with a whisper. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. I used to tell myself we were a normal family. Not perfect, but solid. We had a house with a fence, 2 cars, school runs, weekend groceries. The usual signs that things were fine. But fine has a way of hiding things. Fine is where loneliness lives quietly. I'm in my late 30s. Or maybe I'm just tired enough to feel older than that. I don't remember the last time I looked in the mirror and saw someone awake behind my own eyes. I sleep. I wake. I serve. And in between, I vanish. My husband, he's not a bad man. He's not violent. Not cruel. But he's not there, either. He talks in reminders. Eye contact is rare. His love feels like it's on a timer, and I'm always running late for it. Some nights, he lies beside me and I can still feel the space between us, like a second bed between our backs. I used to miss him. Then I stopped noticing he was gone. My son, though, he's not a boy anymore. Tall now. Quiet. Watchful. The kind of presence that fills a room without making noise. He helps with dinner without being asked. Brings in the laundry when it rains. And somehow he knows when I've had a long day without me saying a word. We sit in the kitchen sometimes after everyone's gone to bed. He doesn't say much, but he listens. Listens like he sees me, not as a mother, not as a wife, but as a person. And that started to mean something I wasn't ready to admit. Our house is quiet. Too quiet. It's the kind of quiet that presses against your skin. Not peaceful, hollow. And I filled that hollow with chores. With lists. With sacrifice. I told myself I'm a mother first. When I felt unseen, I said, "This is what love looks like." When I cried into a towel in the bathroom, I whispered, "You're just tired." But deep down, I knew something in me was empty. And I was starting to look for pieces of myself in the way my son looked at me, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to feel real again. Needed to feel like I mattered to someone. Anyone. I think we were still a family then. But even that started to feel like something I had to convince myself of. More and more each day. It was his idea, my husband's. He said we needed a day out. Said we were all too quiet lately. Too disconnected. So we packed towels and sandwiches and sunscreen and drove to the beach like a family that still knew how to be one. The car ride was silent in the way most of ours had become. He drove. I looked out the window. Our son sat in the back, headphones in, but his eyes kept finding mine in the mirror. Like he could feel something shifting too. The beach was wide and open, but the wind felt gentle that day. Children laughed somewhere behind us. Waves kept rolling in, soft and steady like breath. For the first few minutes, it felt like maybe this was a good idea. Maybe this was what we needed. But then the phone rang. Work. He answered. Of course he did. Walked away without looking back. And just like that, it was just us. Me and my son, standing in the sand like we were the only 2 people left in the world. He dropped his towel, kicked off his shoes, and ran into the water like he was 10 again. I laughed. Really laughed. And when he came back soaked and smiling, he said, "You laugh differently when it's just us." I looked at him. Not like a mother looks at her son. Not entirely. And I should have said something. Should have corrected it. Should have changed the tone, the direction, the feeling. But I didn't. Instead, I laughed again. Just to hear what he meant. That night after the beach, I couldn't sleep. The sheets felt too tight, the air too still. My husband was snoring beside me, facing the wall like always. And I just stared at the ceiling, blinking through the dark. So I got up, poured myself some tea I didn't want, sat by the kitchen window with nothing but the hum of the fridge and my thoughts. And then, I picked up my journal. I hadn't written in months, maybe years. But that night, I opened to a fresh page and wrote one word. His name. I stared at it for a long time, noticing how natural it felt to write it. How wrong it felt that it felt natural. And I didn't stop. I started writing little things, how he laughed when the water hit him, how he handed me the sandwich first, how he looked at me like I wasn't invisible. The next morning, he made me tea. He just handed it to me and said, "You look tired." And I smiled. Too long, too wide. And he noticed. He always noticed. He said, "Did you cut your hair?" I hadn't. Not really. I just pinned it back differently. But he saw it. And somehow, that small sentence touched something in me my husband hadn't touched in years. And that scared me. I started to move differently around the house. More careful. Like I was hiding something I hadn't done yet. Like my guilt was ahead of my actions. Because even if nothing had happened, something had already shifted. I started questioning myself in ways I hadn't dared before. Was it wrong to feel warmth, just because someone looked at me with kindness? Was it betrayal? To feel more alive when he spoke to me than when my husband came home? Why did his smile make me nervous, when my husband's silence didn't make me feel anything at all? And why did I begin to wait for our little moments? The ones that shouldn't mean anything, passing me the remote, brushing past me in the kitchen, sitting beside me on the couch, knees almost touching. I told myself it was just hormones, just stress, just a phase. But then it happened. One night, I was reaching for the tea bag. He reached too. Our fingers touched just for a second. And I didn't pull away. I thought I was in control. I did. But in that quiet second, with our hands barely touching and the kettle steaming beside us, I realized something terrifying. Control had nothing to do with it. He started staying up later. At first, I thought it was coincidence. Teenagers and their odd sleep schedules. But then I realized he was waiting. For the dishes to be done. For the house to quiet down. For me. We'd sit at opposite ends of the couch. He'd hand me one earbud, and I'd pretend not to notice the way his hands trembled slightly when they touched mine. We'd listen to music. Old songs. Songs I forgot I even loved. And we didn't always talk. Sometimes the silence between us said more than any words could. Sometimes I'd close my eyes and let the lyrics wrap around us like a blanket we both pretended wasn't there. Then one night, the power went out. The whole block. No hum of the fridge. No buzz from the lights. Just darkness. He came down with candles. He lit one, then another, then placed one on the table between us. The soft flicker bounced off the walls, off his face, off mine, and in that moment, I looked at him. Really looked. And I wasn't thinking like a mother. I was just a woman in a dimly lit room with someone who saw her. He was staring at me too. Not bold, not defiant, just open. He said, "You don't have to explain anything to me." And I didn't know what he meant exactly. But I knew. Somewhere in my bones, I knew. Because he wasn't just talking about the quiet between us. He was talking about the warmth, the tension, the glances, the moments we kept brushing off but kept coming back to, And for the first time, I didn't explain, didn't deflect, didn't change the subject. I just let the silence speak. And it said everything we were too afraid to say. It happened the night everything felt just a little too loud. Dinner was tense, so tense the plates might as well have cracked from the silence alone. My husband, tired from work, irritated by the way we laughed at a joke only we understood, set his fork down hard and looked at us. Not like a husband, not like a father, but like someone watching strangers in his house. He said, "You two spend too much time together. It's starting to feel inappropriate." The word stung. Like a slap wrapped in politeness. My son dropped his spoon. His jaw clenched. He didn't say a word. He just stood up, chair scraping the tile, and walked out. Fast, quiet, hurt. My husband looked at me like he expected me to say something, anything, but I didn't. I couldn't. I followed my son, down the hall, past the pictures on the wall that no longer felt like they belonged to us. His door was cracked open. I knocked. He didn't answer. So I stepped in. He was sitting on the edge of his bed, his back to me, his shoulders shaking, not from anger, from something deeper. Grief, maybe, or guilt, or something no one had ever taught him how to name. I sat beside him, carefully, like the air might break between us. I reached out, placed a hand on his back. He didn't move, didn't pull away, didn't speak. I said it before I could stop myself. "Take it easy, son," and I felt it. The pause, the shift, like something sacred had been touched. And might not survive it. He turned slowly, tears in his eyes. Confusion, too. And something else I couldn't name. He leaned in, pressed his forehead to my shoulder. And then, he kissed it. Soft, gentle, too long, and I didn't stop him. I didn't say no, didn't pull away, didn't move. My hands were trembling. His breathing changed. The air turned thick, heavy, like the moment before a storm that doesn't come. I stood up, eventually, but I didn't shut the door behind me. I just walked out into a house that suddenly didn't feel like mine anymore. And the worst part? I didn't feel disgust. I didn't feel shame. Not then. I felt seen. The next morning, the light felt too bright. Mornings never felt colder. Not because of the weather, but because something between us had changed shape overnight, from soft and unspoken to sharp and undeniable. We didn't talk about it. Not with words. But silence. Silence can scream if you let it. He avoided my eyes. Walked slower. Held his coffee mug with both hands like it might anchor him to something real. And I stayed busy. Too busy. Wiped the counters twice. Folded clothes that were already folded. Pretended the house needed more cleaning than it did. But I still saw him watching me from doorways. From the stairs. Like he wanted to ask something he didn't know how to ask. My husband? He noticed the distance, sure, but not enough to understand it. He asked if I was on my period. If the boy was being moody. He didn't see the fracture. He just felt the chill and blamed the thermostat. One afternoon, I caught my own reflection. I was in the bathroom, drying my hands. Hair undone. Blouse crooked. Eyes dull. And I hated what I saw. But I missed what had made me feel alive the night before. I leaned on the sink, stared at myself longer than I should have. And all I could think was, who are you now? Later that week, I was reorganizing the kitchen. Trying to control something, anything. And I found it, the mug he used to make my tea, the one with the small chip on the rim. The one he always picked, even though we had others. It smelled faintly of cinnamon and something I couldn't name. And I held it for a moment. Too long. Then I tucked it behind the other cups. Way back. Where no one would find it. Where I wouldn't have to see it. But knowing it was there made my chest ache in ways I couldn't explain. That night, he smiled at me. Just briefly. A glance across the table. Small. Sad. And when he did, I realized something strange. I missed his guilt more than I missed my husband's love. Some nights, when the house is still and I'm alone with my breath, I ask myself the question I'm too scared to answer out loud. Was I the villain? Or just a woman who'd been forgotten one day too long? Sometimes I imagine telling a therapist, lying back on one of those long couches, tissue box nearby, words fragile and broken coming out of my mouth like glass. But I never do. Because how do you explain a line that moved? How do you tell someone that the place you thought was wrong started to feel like home? I think about him every day, and not in the way I should. Does he regret it? Does he lie in his bed at night, trying to erase it? Or does he remember it like I do, quietly, secretly, like a soft bruise he presses now and then just to feel something? I don't know. Because we never talk about it. We smile. We pass the salt. We fold the laundry. We pretend the world didn't stop, even though mine did. And still, I loved him. Not the way I was supposed to, but the way my heart reached for him when no one else even noticed it was drowning. He saw me. That's all it took. That's all it ever takes, isn't it? One person, noticing. And I think about all the things I gave up. All the quiet sacrifices. The dreams. The body. The softness. The parts of me that stretched for years and never bounced back. And they say motherhood is sacrifice. But what happens when no one notices what you gave up? What happens when the person who sees it is the one person you were never supposed to need that much? Have you ever crossed a line? Not because you were cruel, but because you were empty? Because the silence in your own life got so loud, you mistook attention for affection and comfort for connection? Would you have stopped it? If you could go back, would you pull your hand away quicker? Would you laugh less? Would you shut the door behind you? Or would you wish it never ended? I don't have the answers. I only have the ache. The kind that sits in your chest long after the moment is gone. The kind you can't quite name in daylight. But at night, it speaks. If you've ever felt that ache, that kind, drop your truth in the comments. No judgment. No shame. Just release. And if this story stirred something in you, if it pressed somewhere quiet inside you, subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. The next one might feel even closer to home. His room's empty now. He moved out last spring. Packed his things with quiet hands. Didn't say much. Just hugged me. Tighter than usual. I walk past it sometimes. I don't go in. But today, I did. I opened the drawer near the window. The one he always kept his notebooks in. And there it was folded, almost forgotten. A note. You were the only one who saw me. Thank you. I stood there for a long time, holding that paper like it might dissolve in my hands. And I whispered it again. Not to him. Not to the walls. Just into the space where he used to be. Take it easy, son. Some love isn't sinful because it's wrong. It's sinful because it was the only thing that ever felt right. Subscribe.